Alright, this is another video. This deck is called The Types, They-Are-a-Changeling. You'll figure that out in a second. And here's my commander. 5 colors, Reaper King. The scarecrows you have get +1/+1, and whenever a scarecrow comes into play under your control, destroy target permanent. Any target permanent, including lands. It can be very vicious and scary. And this deck has 35 lands, Command Tower, Gateway Plaza, Rupture Spire, Lotus Field, and Transguild Promenade. Only rare one of those guys is this one. I have to sacrifice 2 lands, but in exchange, whenever it taps for 3 mana of any one color. And these 4 lands are tricolor producers: Arcane Sanctum, Rith's Grove, Murmuring Bosque, and Seaside Citadel. And this deck has a large number of dual-colored producing lands, shock lands, bounce lands, etc. Filter lands of different sorts, as you can see there. And as you can see, there is a high focus on stuff that can produce green. That's because stuff later in the deck requires green a little bit more than everything else to help with mana fixing and the such. And here's some basic lands, just chosen art styles and artists that I like, and about 3 fetch lands, and a couple utility lands. This one gives all my creatures lifelink and death touch, and this one becomes a creature with the changeling ability. And this is the main reason the deck is called The Types They-Are-a-Changeling, because a large number of cards have the changeling ability, because they're pieces of a bigger engine of how this deck works. Now, all of these that I'm showing right now are just generic ones. Doesn't really matter what they do particularly. Some have flying, some have small little ability here or there. This one produces an extra changeling tokens, which is defense and power, regenerates, death touch, fire breathing. This one's kind of nice. Target creature gains all creature types and gives something changeling, or takes away all creature types. And then this row right here is a bunch of special changelings. This one can double its power over and over again as long as I can pay for it. Morophon, you've heard of Morophon. It gives me a nifty ability of alternate casting costs for certain creature types. This one just keeps growing every time an opponent plays a spell. I can make all of my creatures copies of other things, or rather every shapeshifter, which is every changeling. And then these 3 over here are part of an infinite loop where, because they have to champion a creature, they can champion one another and then make it so that the other one comes out, and then it just repeats the loop over and over again. So I have infinite coming into play triggers, depending on what I need, if I get these 3 out, of course. And so I'm going to start again with Pseudo Lords. This one gives +1/+1, gives Slivers flying and haste, gives them all poisonous 1. Every one that hits gives a poison counter, gives all Slivers pay 2 untap this creature, makes Slivers unblockable except by Slivers. This one, I tap 2 untapped humans and itself, exile target artifact or enchantment. Pretty strong there. This one says, I reduce the damage by X, where X is the number of clerics I control. Whenever an angel comes into play, I gain 4 life. And whenever an angel dies, I get a 1/1 spirit creature token flying. You've seen the Scarab God before. Scrying, opponents losing life, etc. Now, I get to add X to my mana pool of any color, where X is the number of elves in play. Same thing except for allies. You saw this in another video. Druid spells get me a card, and tap 7, I control all the lands. I tap 5 untapped zombies. I recur anything I want from the graveyard, from any creature from the graveyard directly to play. This one allows me to tap and untap Celifit. I get to tap target permanent. The second ability is not really relevant. This one says, whenever an ally comes into play, all my creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. Now, these 2 our instant speed search for elf and or goblin card and put it directly into play. Tap 2 untapped creatures that share a creature type, and then I put a creature card from my hand that shares a type with them directly into play without paying mana. It's an activated ability, and this is a triggered at the upkeep ability where whatever creature it's attached to, I look at the top 5 cards and I put a creature that shares a type with it directly into play. Now, in case it isn't obvious, all of those pseudo-lords have these nifty abilities based on creature types, except I don't have too many of those creature types, except for the fact that almost all my creatures have the changeling ability, meaning they're all creature types. So every one of those changelings increases the power and can help activate the abilities of all those pseudo-lords. So just think about it. This guy. Every single time I play one of my changelings, I destroy something. Every time I play any of those things, abilities trigger. Anytime I put another creature into play, I increase the power and increase the X of all of those other creatures. Now, I don't have a huge draw engine in this deck because it's pretty nasty, and if I had a huge draw engine, I'd be targeted super quick. I have a bunch of stuff to help me mana fix and to slow things down, i.e. cards like this and this. This gives all my enchantment shroud, and this gives every other permanent I control hexproof. They protect each other completely, and backup support for some hexproof amongst my creatures. This produces colorless shapeshifter creature tokens. I'm gonna pause there for a second. Catholic Crusade, you've seen it. This one, just in case, to help me recur some stuff so I can get some ETB triggers. This one's an old card. It's like less than $1, I think. Just to help me with stuff that's difficult to target with spells. And removes it from the game. Helps me get rid of some of the more nasty stuff. Especially since it's an artifact. Oh, forgot about this part of the draw engine. This one basically makes the bottom of my library my graveyard, so anything that goes to my graveyard goes there instead. And some mana fixing, any color. All my lands have add 1 mana of any color, another any color. This one, you know Seedborn Muse. Another any color mana fixing, and a small little guy to turn one of my other creatures into a changeling creature. Help fuel some of the engine. And just some quick search card inclusion. For any card, then enchantment or artifact, or just an artifact. And only an enchantment. Got that mixed up there a little bit. Alright, well, in any case, I am thinking about tweaking the deck a little bit, but I'm not exactly sure which direction to take it. It's a toolbox deck that was initially made just to keep everybody at the table honest, so to speak. Anybody takes a little too many liberties, makes it hard for them to deal with me. I had it so I could remove cards before from people's libraries to deal with combo, and I had massive draw engines before, got me targeted a lot. Well, in any case, this is the types They-are-a-changeling. Tell me what you think.